The HOA fined me for yard art. Now my driveway's a gallery. Karen's voice sliced through the morning like a chainsaw. This junk is an embarrassment, she barked, waving a violation notice in my face as I stood in my yard, paint still wet on my hands. My sculptures, metal birds, mosaic stones, a fish-shaped wind chime, sparkled in the sun, but to Karen, they were trash. My heart pounded. Those pieces weren't just art, they were my soul, my tribute to the woman who taught me to create. Karen, the HOA's resident dictator, wanted them gone. She thought she'd won, but she didn't know I'd turned my driveway into a gallery that'd make her choke on her own rules. I'm Jamie, a 34-year-old artist living in Willow Creek, a suburban maze of perfect lawns and boring mailboxes in Indiana. My front yard was my canvas, recycled metal twisted into birds, glass mosaics embedded in the path, and a wind chime that sang with every breeze. They were inspired by my mentor, Ms. Clara, who ran an art co-op and saw beauty in everything. "Make the world brighter, Jamie," she'd say, handing me scraps to transform. When she passed last year, I poured her lessons into my yard. Neighbors loved it, kids danced under the chimes, and Mrs. Patel next door called it a gift. But Karen? She saw my art as a personal insult. Karen was the HOA president, a title she wielded like a scepter. Mid-40s, blonde bob sharper than her tongue, always in a blazer like she was closing $1 million deal. She patrolled Willow Creek with a clipboard, hunting for infractions. A kid's basketball hoop left out? Fine. A shrub trimmed wrong? Warning. She once fined Mr. Lopez for a garish welcome mat. Karen didn't just enforce rules, she lived for the power. When she targeted my yard, I knew it wasn't about aesthetics. She just hated anyone who dared to stand out. It started with a letter. "Dear Ms. Carter, your yard decorations violate HOA guidelines for visual harmony. Remove them within 72 hours or face a $200 fine." Visual harmony? My art was alive. I stormed to the HOA meeting, sketches in hand, ready to fight. Karen sat like a queen, smirking. "Jamie, this clutter cheapens our community," she said, her voice pure venom. "It's not art, it's garbage." The board nodded, spineless. I argued my sculptures were sentimental, harmless, but Karen shut me down. Comply or pay. I left fuming, vowing to keep my art. Then came the shock. The next morning I found my yard trashed. My metal birds were bent, mosaics shattered, the wind chime a tangled mess. My stomach dropped. It was vandalism, and Karen's smug face flashed in my mind. No proof, but her gloating at the meeting screamed guilt. I knelt in the wreckage, clutching a broken mosaic. "Ms. Clara's voice echoing, "Make the world brighter." Tears fell, but anger rose. Karen thought she'd broken me. No, she was wrong. I'd fight back. Petty, creative, and unstoppable. I spent that day raging, then planning. The HOA rules were clear. No excessive yard decorations, but driveways were fair game for temporary displays under strict guidelines. Fine. I'd turn my driveway into an art gallery, bold, compliant, and so dazzling it'd humiliate Karen. I'd rebuild my sculptures bigger and brighter and make them untouchable. This wasn't just revenge, it was honor, a tribute to Ms. Clara's belief in beauty. I called my friend Diego, a welder with a flair for drama. "You're insane," he laughed. "Let's do it." We'd create a masterpiece that'd make Karen's head spin and show Willow Creek what art could do. My blood boiled as I sifted through the wreckage of my art. Karen's vandalism wasn't just a crime, it was a dagger through Ms. Clara's legacy. The HOA rules she hid behind were a sham. Her own yard boasted a tacky cherub statue that screamed discount store. Yet she called my sculptures garbage. The hypocrisy was suffocating. I checked the handbook. Yard decorations must not disrupt community standards. Standards. Karen's standards were control, plain and simple. Neighbors whispered their support. Mrs. Patel slipped me a note saying, "Keep fighting," but fear of Karen's wrath kept most silent. Mr. Lopez saw a figure near my yard that night, hoodie up, but wouldn't swear it was Karen. "She's got spies," he muttered, spineless. Then came the kicker. A new notice appeared on my door. Failure to clear debris within 48 hours will incur a $300 fine. Debris? She'd wrecked my art and was now billing me for it? I ripped the paper down, fury morphing into resolve. This wasn't about rules. It was personal. Karen thought she could intimidate me into silence, but she'd misjudged me. I'd turn her vendetta into my victory with a petty, brilliant revenge that'd make Miss Clara's spirit dance. My driveway would become a gallery, a defiant, rule-abiding masterpiece that'd expose Karen's pettiness to all of Willow Creek. I called a war council with Diego and my neighbor Sophie, a graphic designer who'd once been fined for unauthorized porch planters. Sophie grinned. Let's make Karen eat her own rules. We scoured the HOA handbook for loopholes. Driveway displays were allowed for temporary community events if they met size and lighting restrictions. Perfect. We'd create a pop-up art gallery, sculptures, murals, lights, all compliant, but so bold Karen would choke on her clipboard. It'd be a tribute to Ms. Clara, a middle finger to Karen, and a gift to the neighborhood. I wanted people to see it, laugh, and remember what creativity could do. Diego mapped out the logistics: welded metal sculptures, glass orbs from a local artisan, and a massive mosaic mural painted on the driveway itself. Sophie designed the layout, colorful, chaotic, but harmonious to dodge Karen's visual discord clause. I ordered materials, steel rods, spray paint, LED lights just under the brightness limit. Budget was $700, but Sophie donated paint and Diego scored scrap metal for cheap. We'd work in Diego's workshop to keep it secret, assembling at night for the big reveal. Karen's gonna flip, Diego chuckled. I counted on it. We started building in a frenzy. Diego welded towering flowers, their petals sharp enough to gleam under lights. I crafted glass orbs that glowed like fireflies while Sophie sketched the mural. A swirling tribute to Miss Clara's co-op, with birds and fish in vibrant hues. Every piece screamed defiance but fit the HOA's rules like a glove. At night, I'd hold Ms. Clara's old paintbrush, feeling her fire in my veins. This was honor, defending art, joy, the things Karen hated because they exposed her smallness. Trouble hit when Mr. Lopez spotted us moving metal at midnight. "What's this?" he hissed, but when I explained, his frown eased. "Karen's a bully. My lips are sealed." His silence was a lifeline. By day, I played the good neighbor, clearing the debris to avoid fines while dodging Karen's smug drive-bys. She sensed something, her eyes narrowing, but her arrogance blinded her. The neighborhood buzzed. Kids asked Sophie about Jamie's secret art, but no one snitched. Willow Creek was rooting for me, quietly. The gallery was nearly ready, set for a Saturday night unveiling. Diego wired the lights, Sophie painted the mural's final strokes, and I placed each sculpture like a soldier in battle. But I added a twist, a sign reading, "Support the Art Co-op Fund." If Karen wanted a fight, I'd win with kindness too. Miss Clara always said gratitude made tyrants look foolish. I was ready to prove it. Saturday night crackled with excitement. Diego, Sophie, and I rolled the sculptures from his workshop under cover of darkness, setting them up on my driveway. At 9 p.m., I hit the switch. Spotlights flared, glass orbs glowed, and the mosaic mural, a riot of birds and fish, shimmered on the concrete. The gallery was alive. Towering metal flowers swayed, chimes sang softly, and a 7-foot welded phoenix anchored the display. I posted online, "Willow Creek Art Gallery, support the co-op fund." Neighbors flooded in, kids gawked, adults snapped photos, and Mrs. Patel clapped like it was Christmas. Then Karen arrived. Her SUV skidded to a halt, and she charged my driveway, face purple with rage. "This is a disgrace," she screamed, waving a violation notice like a sword. Her bob was a wreck, blazer half unbuttoned. She was unraveling. "You're fined. This circus violates everything." I stood firm, paintbrush in hand. "Read the rules, Karen. Temporary event, undersized limits, compliant lighting." Her jaw dropped. The crowd whispered, phones recording her meltdown. "You can't do this," she sputtered. I'll. She had nothing. The handbook was my shield. Sophie grinned, tossing fuel. "Karen, Your cherub statue's the real violation. Tacky much? Laughter erupted. Karen lunged for a glass orb, but Mr. Lopez, quiet, cautious Mr. Lopez, stepped in. Back off, Karen, he growled. The crowd roared, chanting, Jamie, Jamie! Karen's eyes darted, humiliated. She fled to her SUV, screeching away as neighbors jeered. Her reign was over, and my gallery was a triumph, a blazing tribute to Miss Clara that Karen couldn't touch. By dawn, the co-op fund box brimmed with $400 plus notes of thanks. Kids left painted rocks. Mr. Lopez brought tamales. The gallery wasn't just revenge, it was community. I'd honored Ms. Clara's love for art, turned Karen's hate into beauty, and showed Willow Creek what kindness could build. At the next HOA meeting, neighbors packed the room, demanding Karen's ouster. She resigned in a huff, her cherub statue gone a week later. Word spread she moved to a condo where the HOA banned her decor. I kept the mural, adding new sculptures with neighbors' help. Every evening, I'd sit by the Phoenix, feeling Ms. Clara's pride. Karen thought she could erase my art, but I built a gallery from her spite. And the kicker? The co-op fund bought supplies for kids' art classes with a plaque reading, Inspired by Clara. Karen's legacy was failure. Mine was joy. The end.